Hi there, YouTube. I'm Ryno.
And I'm Bobby.
And welcome to the inaugural episode of CommonCulture Coliseum. And if you don't know what that is, and why would you? It's the first episode. It's basically a movie debate show where we discuss movies that have come before, movies that are yet to come, and basically general movie concepts. We will be doing what we're calling Superhero Smackdown. This is going to be week 1 of 5, and we're going to be spanning the years 2016 to 2020, covering every superhero movie that will come out. And we're basically going to be picking one each and debating which superhero movie will reign supreme that year. So this is all kind of speculation on our part, but also a little bit of what the directors are doing, what actors are involved.
There's definitely some history in here, for sure,
yeah. And what we think the overall story structure will be of these individual films, and kind of how much faith we have in them or the people behind them.
So essentially how it's going to work from here is we're both going to give our opening statements. And since there's only 2 superhero movies left this year, which are Suicide Squad
and Doctor Strange,
then what's going to happen now is we will give our opening statements, and then we'll go bullet point by bullet point down and argue our films.
And this week, I have picked Suicide Squad.
Which leaves me with Doctor Strange.
I don't know about leave.
No, I didn't mean to say it like that. I'm very excited to argue my points here.
Yeah, so...
We both have very different takes.
Whatever.
Apparently what happens here is we play prosecutor and defendant, and then you guys are the jury.
Yep.
So, let's hit it up with our opening statements. Ryan, you want to go first?
I will.
All right.
So, basically, this is going to be me attacking Doctor Strange and also defending Suicide Squad. And some of the major topics I'm going to be discussing is overall filmmaker freedom, the level of experience that David Ayer has over someone like Scott Derrickson, and the level of kind of expression and ingenuity that he has in all of his different projects that I think Scott Derrickson is kind of limited in, and also kind of how the movies look as a whole already, because we've already been given trailers. So those are kind of my general thoughts and topics. I think it's hard to argue cast, which is where I had a problem, because they're both very loaded casts. So it's really going to be a lot about story structure, what I think the character motivations are going to be, and what I think the director is doing behind the camera.
All right, I guess my whole argument here, and it comes down to one very simple argument, is the MCU versus the DCEU. And the MCU, which has a track record of success, while the DCEU is still finding its footing.
I like them more than most MCU films.
The MCU has a wide range of different films.
It does.
With a wide range of different filmmakers.
And different quality.
That's true.
Ranging from poopy butthole to good.
Yes. But if we're arguing here what movie is going to be better, it will be essentially a better made movie, a better received movie, and just in the public perception, a movie that people like more.
And also, in its general idea, you're arguing of movies made by a committee versus movies made by a filmmaker. And sure, it hasn't worked out, but there's been one filmmaker, and David Ayer is, by track record and reputation alone, a better filmmaker than Zack Snyder. So I think that kind of lends itself more to a change of pace or a change in quality more than something like a Marvel does, because everything's made with Kevin Feige's overall vision.
Or if you want me to fight you, Scott Derrickson versus David Ayer, it's not going to happen. Scott Derrickson essentially has made one film and written one film that I thoroughly enjoyed, and that's Sinister. And
yes.
I think we could both say that we like that film a lot. But here's where I think it wins. I think Scott Derrickson has a much smaller task at hand. He's got a lot less to juggle, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, I think very much so. This is kind of their almost Guardians of the Galaxy movie for the MCU, where this is their one singular movie that doesn't necessarily have to connect to other things, and it could later, but almost like an Ant-Man where an attachment to the Avengers and other Marvel characters could be a complete afterthought. This movie it just looks like it could take place in a completely different universe other than in the Avengers. And while they use the same kind of camera style that they've been using in the last 2 Marvel MCU films, I think that this has a very different tone in it, and I could see this taking place a completely different place.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't see that stark of a difference in tone between something like a Winter Soldier and something like this. Like, they're very serious movies, and they're trying to be taken seriously. And
I know.
And also, I don't know. I don't know if I completely agree with that statement about how this has less of a job, because DCEU films are opening up characters and opening up that world. But this is the world of Gotham, which has already been explored in Batman v Superman, and it's not really opening doors outside of that so far. It might be opening some stuff in Midway City with someone like the Flash, but Doctor Strange is opening up the galactic and the cosmic in the MCU, which is huge, which was explored in Guardians, but this is a whole nother level. This is multi-dimensional travel in Doctor Strange. And this is something that could lead to like different universes within the MCU. I don't think we're going to get anywhere near that in something like a Suicide Squad. That seems kind of like a contained Gotham story.
Okay, well, that you're just giving me a whole reason. That whole different universe and expansion is why I feel like, because the MCU has not explored the thing, the MCU hasn't even touched things like magic. And when stuff like sorcery or magics even come up, such as in the Thor movies, they say, well, what you would call magic on Earth is what we call science, and that we're just not advanced enough to understand that. And I think that this Doctor Strange is just going to cover a completely different world than anything that we have seen in the MCU so far. My problem with Suicide Squad and my concerns going in to this week and watching the film, and while I expect it to be a good movie, my problem is that I think that it might have too many characters to balance, and there might be too many mouths to feed. And when you have characters, or when you have actors like Will Smith, Jared Leto, Margot Robbie leading your cast, I feel like people are going to get let out, and I feel like one of those characters that's not going to quite get his due is one that we're all really excited to see, and I think that's the Joker. I don't think he's going to get nearly as big of a role in this film as a lot of people would like.
I actually think the Joker is going to get a much larger role than people think. Because
okay, how much? I mean, this is all speculation, of course. We can't tell you
how much in the movie is he going to be in it. Like how much do I honestly think?
Time, like 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
I think he's going to be the third most on-screen presence after Margot Robbie and Will Smith. I think Margot Robbie is going to get the most. I think Will Smith is going to be the second most. And I think that Jared Leto is going to be third most. And I think that his performance is going to be, like, his presence is known throughout the film, even when he's not on screen. And I think that he's going to have enough on-screen time just by himself, whereas the other people have to share it between, like, 6 people. He's going to be all alone, owning the screen by himself. So I think that his screen presence might even have a larger impact. And also, before getting into the whole, like, it's branching into new territory, Doctor Strange, which is true. I agree with that. It's that I was attacking the point that you were saying it has, like, less on its hands than a Suicide Squad. I think that they're pretty equal in the amount that they both have to kind of break into this world. Because Marvel's still breaking new ground in their cinematic universe. DC is just starting. But I think that's another reason why I think Suicide Squad is going to be more interesting, because it is a starting point to a universe. And I think that this first Marvel films, though I don't universally love them all, I think for me, the most general fun thing about all of them is that they were starting to break ground into a world. And I think that Suicide Squad is going to bring that same kind of thing. You're going to see deeper into Batman's world, and a world that like we've never seen before with characters like Harley Quinn or Deadshot. We've never seen those characters on film, so you're going into a whole new kind of comic aspect with those characters. And I think that for me, it's more characters that I think a general audience has been waiting to see than maybe a Doctor Strange, because I think general audience is probably a little more familiar with some of the Suicide Squad members just from the Batman animated series, and from them being more in the public eye than a Doctor Strange, which I hadn't even heard of before, and I don't think you had either.
No, I have not.
So
I think the only one that people are really waiting for is Harley Quinn. We've already seen plenty of iterations of the Joker, and that's another thing too.
Yeah, but this is a completely different Joker.
Is it though?
Yes, it is.
Have we seen it?
There's no way. No, we have not seen this. We have not seen this tattooed gangster, like Mexican cartel Joker.
Well, I also think a lot of people don't like that.
Well,
a lot of people are really put off by the tattoos and think it's kind of lame.
Well, one thing that I would argue Suicide Squad has over Doctor Strange is that Suicide Squad is doing something not only different within a genre, but different within those individual characters. It's taking them in a new direction that we haven't seen before, and whether you like that Joker or not, you can't argue that that's something interesting, that it's some new kind of direction that I think is an individual filmmaker's decision. It was David Ayer's decision to go that route and to make the Joker like that. And I think it's going to be cool with... I've seen the Joker so many times, I don't need to see the same guy. Like, I don't need to see Mark Hamill's Joker, because we already have that, it already exists, and I don't need to see Ledger's Joker, and it looks like we're getting something totally different. And I think that I didn't like it at first, for sure, but I understand now the creative direction that it's heading, and I'm excited to see what they do with that direction and how they mold this Joker. And I think somebody like David Ayer, who does something incredible like Fury, with all those different characters, he already proved he could do an ensemble piece, and you get everybody's due. Like, and people have more screen time, of course. Somebody like Brad Pitt is going to have more screen time than somebody at that time like Punisher.
Bernthal, John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal.
I don't know why I'm helping you. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, I would have just said Punisher. But he's awesome in the movie, and you get a real
That would
sense
have been like Dolph Lundgren?
Yeah, you get a real sense of his character, even though he doesn't have as much screen time. And I think that's going to be really cool. And something coming out of this movie that I think a lot of people are going to say is that, like, yeah, you know, we didn't get as much Killer Croc or we didn't get as much Katana, but I can't wait to see them in the future. Like, it's opening up that door. And I think that's some of the best movies. That's some of the best ensemble pieces is when you're like, man, I can't wait to see those guys again.
I agree. But for me, I think there's less of a task here when all we have to really focus on, and there are supporting roles, but the one big character that we have to focus on in Doctor Strange is Doctor Strange. And I think because we have never, like you said, we don't really know too much about the character. So everything that we're going to learn, unless you're a big comic book fan, a big Marvel comic book fan, and have explored these Doctor Strange comics, I think we're going to learn a lot of new things about this character. And we really just get to focus in on one guy, and rather than talking about characters such as Deadshot or Killer Croc and things like that. And I think that really helps this movie become like this character piece in an actor who's a fine actor, and we get to spend a lot of time with Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, and I'm a really big fan of that. And not even to mention the Tilda Swinton thing. And while some people are definitely mad that it is a bit of a whitewashing move, getting Tilda Swinton in that role is key. She's one of the most talented actresses, and I think one of the more underrated actresses in Hollywood, or at least one of the people that I don't think a lot of...
She's dope in Constantine. You not like Constantine?
I like it too.
Into a whole new argument here?
I like it too, but I think a lot of people don't.
Constantine.
All right. Tilda Swinton's awesome.
Jeez.
All right,
I wasn't taking blows.
I thought you were sweeping.
No, first off,
sweeping
I'm never going to sweep on my boy Keanu, even if it's for the win.
So my point is they only have one character to actually focus on here, at least in a major role. I mean, obviously we have Benedict Wong and we have Rachel McAdams, but I think they're all definitely more side players.
And Chiwetel.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mads.
I mean, the actor list is fantastic.
Yeah.
And while they could focus on any one of these characters, I think that Marvel has shown their track record that, hey, we're just going to focus on the hero for most of it and developing him. And I think that's where the focus in this film needs to be paid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that we're going to get far too much Deadshot in the Suicide Squad movie. And
Maybe.
while I like Will Smith,
Maybe.
and I'm not going to rag on him because I think that would be an easy thing to do because we both like Will Smith, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue it just for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
I'm not super interested in Deadshot, and I don't know a lot about him, and maybe I'll be singing a different tune when we come out, but I could care less about Deadshot at this point.
If you know about his backstory, I actually think, and once again, everything we're kind of spitting back and forth right here about Will Smith is still speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know kind of like why Deadshot became what he is and stuff, I think that it's going to actually lend to some pretty emotional beats with Will Smith, like maybe akin to a Pursuit of Happiness kind of performance, because that's that level of like emotional impact that Deadshot actually has, and I think that that's going to play out. And of course, he's going to have his Will Smith ham moments. But we like that.
No, I do.
That's all a personal thing. Is you either like him or you don't.
With the Patsies, I make fun of it all the time. But in all honesty,
But
I like his Will Smithness.
Yeah, me too.
The whatever that X factor is that Will Smith brings to his roles, I enjoy that. It's a shtick he's been doing for 20 plus years, but it's one that I still enjoy personally. I know some people don't, and it's become kind of commonplace to rag on him for whatever reason because he made After Earth. I don't know. I disagree. That being said, I have a couple worries. I just have more worries with Suicide Squad.
It very well could become the Will Smith show. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think somebody like David Ayer would let it happen. But, that's also speculation. I don't know. Nobody knows that. One thing that I think excites me about a Suicide Squad, out of the many things that is kind of lost on me in a Doctor Strange, is that a lot of the casting in Doctor Strange, I'm just like, man, yeah, that's good casting. That sounds cool. That's something that a person would play. Whereas Suicide Squad sounds like these actors are going to places that they haven't been. Aside from a Will Smith, who seems like he's just kind of playing Will Smith. Although I think there might be some underlying things to his performance. But, I mean, we, as a movie-going public, do not like Jai Courtney. We don't. We kind of hate the guy.
Glad you brought it up, because I was about to.
Yeah, we hate him. But he's kind of like the shining star in a lot of these trailers, is that people can't stop talking about him. He's funny. He fits with the tone. He seems like he's actually giving a pretty solid performance. He's kind of saving himself in these trailers. That could be totally different in the movie, but as of right now, that's the proof that we have to go on, and he looks solid. Somebody like a Margot Robbie, I have never seen her come close to this kind of crazy that is Harley Quinn. And I think her exploring that kind of character is going to be really interesting. And she had that kind of Jersey Girl kind of thing in Wolf of Wall Street, but it wasn't anywhere near the kind of violent crazy that's going to be with Harley Quinn. And if you know about her backstory and the Mad Love storyline in which she becomes Harley from Harleen, I think that it's going to lend to some really cool emotional scenes that I haven't seen her really do recently. Like, I haven't seen her do it when she was in that minute of a bathtub in Big Short. I didn't see it in Focus. I think that Focus like left a lot of emotional beats on the table that it could have had. And I definitely didn't see it in Wolf. She didn't really have that much of emotional scenes. She was just kind of lend herself to funny moments with Leo. And so I think that this movie's going to branch that out. And once again, Jared Leto is completely transforming himself. And I realize that, some people aren't fans of tattoos. I wasn't a fan of tattoos when it first came out.
But I'm still not. I mean, I don't think to me, it doesn't make or break a character, his aesthetics.
I just don't like the damaged on the forehead. Everything else I'm kind of cool with. I've come to like some of the tattoos. I don't like the damage.
But is there any chance that that's part of a bigger problem? Like, of a bigger just misreading of the characters? That too on the nose, like, we're going for fan service.
I don't know.
My question here with Suicide Squad is there too much hype? For whatever reason, Suicide Squad has been that one movie in the DCEU, despite everything else, despite people being very split on Man of Steel, and despite an overwhelming amount of critics and a decent amount of fans not enjoying Batman v Superman, for whatever reason, Suicide Squad is still growing in popularity. The trailers seem to get a lot of hits, and it's tracking very, very well. So I'm afraid maybe that there's just too much legs on this and that the expectations are too high.
That's true.
For where I think that a Doctor Strange is still kind of flying under the radar. I mean, we have a lot of time left for it to come out yet, but I feel like as far as like MCU films are concerned, it's very much flying under the radar.
That's true. But also, I think that Suicide Squad has a bit of an advantage in this sense because both films are going to be compared to their respective companies. So Doctor Strange is coming hot off the heels of one of the most beloved MCU movies ever put out, which is Captain America: Civil War. Suicide Squad is coming hot on the heels of something that got torn apart. So it really just has to be good in the critics' eyes to get positive, because they're going to say it's better than Batman v Superman. Doctor Strange is going to inevitably be compared to Civil War. And because it's an MCU film, because it's coming in that slate, and also it's going to be compared to a lot of the standalone films, which are also loved, like a Guardians of the Galaxy or an Ant-Man. Which I didn't like Ant-Man, but a lot of people did. So
well, yeah, okay. Here's the counter argument to that: is every MCU film is constantly compared to its predecessors, and yet they still are critically reviewed very well. All of the movies are very well received, and there's been a lot of very beloved MCU films, and they still perform very well critically and monetarily. Another thing, we talked about casts earlier, and why I do believe there are a lot of merits on casts on both sides. Suicide Squad has a few more question marks in major roles. Cara Delevingne, we still haven't seen a whole lot from her yet, and she looks like she's playing in a more major role. I don't think like a Will Smith or Jared Leto. I just think that Karen Fukuhara and Cara Delevingne are kind of in more major roles, and like I said, maybe not to the extent of a Will Smith, Margot Robbie, or Jared Leto, but they're kind of in these bigger roles, I think, than anybody else Doctor Strange is going to be. So that's just one thing I have right there.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never heard anybody bash Kara, though. I mean, I haven't.
Me neither. She just hasn't done a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, no one's bashed Karen Fukuhara either, but this is her first feature film in America.
That's true, but this is not Kara's first feature film. She's been in feature films before, and people have said that they think that she's talented. And I think that she looks great in the trailers. I think that she looks like she's doing a good job, especially some of those TV spots.
She might be talented, but is she a Rachel McAdams? Is she a Mads Mikkelsen, Tilda Swinton? I just think across the board at the top, Doctor Strange might have a slight edge. And if it is an edge, it's very slight, and I'll give that to you. But I'll take a win while taking win.
I guess so. I don't know. I would argue that Jared Leto is the best actor out of the bunch in both films. And once again, that's all personal, but I think that he is incredible. I think that he is by far the most branched out actor out of everybody. And I would argue that the best actor in yours is Chiwetel Ejiofor. And I adore Chiwetel Ejiofor. But once again, this doesn't feel like a weird role for him. Like, it feels like it's different than a lot of the serious things that he's portrayed, but it doesn't feel completely out of his character or out of things that he's already done. Whereas Jared Leto continuously does things that you're just like, what are you? What are you? I don't understand how you're so good. And I think that kind of holds such weight. And yeah, and Will has been knocked for being in bad movies and giving bad performances, but in all the great movies he's in, he's given spectacular performances. And I would go toe for toe any day on a performance in something like 7 Pounds or Pursuit of Happiness as to any of your actors. I think those are incredible performances, and especially Ali. Ali is something nuts.
It's a transformative role for him.
It is. And I think that when he's given great material and he's given competent directors, he shines. And I think that this could also be that same kind of thing. And another thing about Doctor Strange, you mentioned it earlier, is it feels like it's filmed the same. It feels, that's the thing that gives Marvel kind of its continuity, is the way that things are filmed. But it feels like Netflix to me. And when I heard about this world, when I was first told about what Doctor Strange was, I was picturing something kind of like Suicide Squad. Is that Suicide Squad I'm really familiar with, but this looks bonkers. Like the whole them being in the Ace Chemical vat with the heart that goes around them, him sitting in the circle of knives. Those kind of creative visual shots are what I expected out of a Doctor Strange trailer, but for me it felt like Doctor Familiar. I got a lot of the same things that I thought I was going to get. The first one felt so Inception-y and Matrix-y, and I think that you can pull those same homages out of the second trailer that you could have out of the first one. And I think that just being like, well, I'm used to it now, is kind of a lazy argument. Because those kind of homages, though kind of cool for a film-going audience, I think that something like Doctor Strange should have been this kind of weird, wacko, like, even the way it was shot, the colors, it should have been something completely different than what's come before, and it doesn't feel like that totally. And also, I've been waiting for this weird cosmic interdimensional thing that we just haven't seen in the trailers yet. Maybe they're saving that for an ace in the hole. Maybe it's just been the tip of the iceberg right now for Doctor Strange, but the only proof we have right now is trailers, and it hasn't wowed me with kind of their vision for the film, and that's what I was most excited for in a character like Doctor Strange.
All right, I'll give you that. My argument was going to be that I think that they're saving this interdimensional travel. I don't think we've seen it yet because I think they're trying to ease into that. But as you said, I can't make that claim for certain because we have not seen it yet. But here's what I can say. You want to talk about trailers? There's still plenty of Doctor Strange that I don't know yet. I feel like I can give you blow by blow the story of Suicide Squad based on the trailers. I think they've given a lot away. I think that they showed a lot of their hand, and I think that's going to take a lot away from the movie-going experience of a lot of people. They just released 8 different clips of the movie, and while I enjoyed what was in the clips, I feel like I didn't need to see 99% of what that was. And we've already had 3 trailers at this point. 3 different full-length trailers that were just, they gave a lot. They really did. So I don't know.
I guess so.
Actually, 4 different trailers if we're counting this last Comic-Con trailer. We have had 4 different full-length trailers.
I would argue that when we had this amount of Suicide Squad trailers too, that I can point out more in Doctor Strange than I could have in Suicide Squad. Because at that point, I was still like, I wonder who the villain is. Is it the Joker? Is it Cara Delevingne's Enchantress? Is it this tattooed man that we haven't really seen played by Common? I actually still don't fully know that answer, even through all these trailers. Doctor Strange, I know who the villain is. It's Mads Mikkelsen. 100%. It's been said. It's been said over and over and over again that Mads Mikkelsen is playing a villain again. And I'm excited.
But we don't know who his
awesome.
Villain is, and we don't know what that villain is. And I think
people know who he is. I mean, I don't because I don't know the
I
canon,
don't either.
But a lot of people know
a
who he is.
handful of nerds out there know who he is, but we don't know who he is. And I
don't know who Enchantress is.
Okay,
and I know Suicide Squad.
I
just think that Doctor Strange, like, I can also paint some of the beats that's going to happen. Doctor Strange, he's going to wake up because he's a surgeon. Mm-hmm. He's going to be operating on people. He's going to get in that accident. He's going to wake up, and then he's going to start feeling these different abilities. He's going to go train with Tilda Swinton. She's going to start unlocking his mind. He's going to meet Mads Mikkelsen. He's going to be like, oh, this guy's unlocking something even deeper. Like, maybe I should follow him. Then he finds out he's evil, and he's working with Chiwetel Ejiofor to bring this guy down. And count me as surprised that that's not what happens, but that's what it feels like from these trailers. And I think that I could have pointed out probably less from the Suicide Squad trailers at this point, 2 trailers in. I could have pointed out less.
And I guess that's an unfair point because, like you said, there's more trailers. So obviously we have that.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like Marvel is not going to give away the house before the movie comes out because they don't have to. And I guess if I had to make a final point, it would be this. Despite me liking Man of Steel, and despite me really, really enjoying BVS, and especially the extended edition, I have much more faith in Disney and Marvel Studios at this point in the game.
And also, yeah, you once again, you're comparing a company that's been making so many movies, and this is kind of my final point, is that I get excited by brand new territory. I get excited by filmmakers being excited about a vision that they have and bringing that vision to life. About actors that are also excited about the property that they're in. I have never seen a cast as united and as excited as the cast of Suicide Squad. Even in the face of all this pressure, they're losing their mind over how much they love each other and how much they love this movie and how much they loved working on this film with David Ayer. And David Ayer seems to have a real control over this material. A movie that nobody would have thought would have come third in the DC extended universe. He brought it to Warner Brothers and said, let me make this movie because I know I can make it well. And that kind of impact, that kind of compassion and kind of creative steps is what gets me excited as a film viewer as to something that I haven't seen before. Like, I never imagined I would have seen a movie like Inception. And on paper, it sounds weird. It sounds like a weird movie, but when you watch it, you realize that that's a director with a true vision. And I think that Ayer has a vision. He has a vision all his own, and he has a style all his own. And you can kind of see bits and pieces, but it feels like he's breaking new ground with this movie, and that excites me. Scott Derrickson feels like he's making a movie that Marvel is going to be happy with, which is fine with me. I know that they make a lot of money and that people really like them. I have differing opinions on each and every movie. I really like some of them, and I really hate a lot of them. And I know that that's because a lot of them are made the same, but that the individual people bring something new to them, and they write something new with them. And I haven't been that wowed with Scott Derrickson's writing. I really don't like Sinister 2. I really don't like the Emily Rose one.
But we know that script writing can take a different turn once you hand in a script, and he didn't direct Sinister 2.
That's true.
And while he did direct,
fair enough.
He did direct Emily Rose, and I'll give you that one.
Yeah, but I mean, and comparing like caliber, I think, of just writing. Let's just take writing into effect, because writing seems to be the difference in the Marvel movies. Is that he wrote Sinister, and Sinister, I think, its power comes from its direction. I think that a lot of James Wan's stuff has cool writing and it has cool character beats, but I think that some of the like interpersonal dialogue between characters sometimes falls a little in the cheesy category for me, but his direction brings something beautiful to those, and I think that Scott Derrickson kind of took some of that Wan-ish energy with him to Sinister, and he made it look great, and he made that horror cool, and I think that something like Training Day is written leagues better than something like Sinister, and that's also a personal preference. You know, I can't prove that in a court of law, but I think that it is, and I think that I'm just more excited about a Suicide Squad because it feels different. And Doctor Strange feels like Dr. Familiar, and I know I've said that like time and time again, and I'm praying I get proved wrong by a third trailer. I'm praying that I see something where I'm like, man, I have not even thought that something like that could exist within the MCU. This, I can see existing in that world. I can see where it fits, and that kind of bummed me out because I thought this was going to be the movie that broke that ground.
Okay, well, just to finish up my final point.
Yeah, go for it.
And I know what you're saying. I'm not always on the side of MCU. I'm not. I'm not going to pretend that I am. There are plenty of MCU movies that I'm not a fan of. MCU movies that I should be a fan of that I'm not. Winter Soldier comes to mind. Just not my cup of tea, not my branding that Zack Snyder and DC and Warner Brothers have taken in their first two films. It has been their own. It has been solely their own decisions, and they've kind of flew in the face of what comic book movie fans have expected so far. And they've made some bold moves, and they've proven that bold does not always mean good. Now it seems as though they're backing down from that point. DC and Warner Brothers, with the recent set visits and coming out, it seems like they're trying to do a lot of people-pleasing.
Suicide Squad was in the can. That's no way. Suicide Squad was canned when this movie came out. They can still edit things.
They can still edit things.
A whole movie. This was the argument of like when Rogue One was getting reshoots. People were like, dude, you can't remake a movie in 45.
DC and Warner Brothers is a scared studio right now. They are a scared studio.
They're keeping Zack Snyder on. A scared studio? I don't think so. I think they're still sticking to all their choices.
They're making a lot of diplomatic moves, but they are a scared studio. And a studio that is very much backing down from what they have been.
There is a record of Terrio saying Justice League will be a lighter film. And all the things that I'm seeing in the new trailer are things that he was talking about before BVS was even released. So
there are war movies that would be lighter films than BVS. This is a complete 180 difference than anything
like the darker stuff.
I do. I'm not saying I don't.
So I don't think it can be argued that the choices that they made were bad, like proof bad. Just because an audience didn't like them. Audiences didn't like Citizen Kane, and BVS is no Citizen Kane. But you can't argue
the Citizen Kane of superhero movies.
You can't argue because everybody loves Avengers as the best movie of all time. It's just not. It's just that like everybody likes eating popcorn and seeing people joke. I think that they made bold decisions that inevitably people weren't going to like. They chose that as artists. And also, it's a different director. And it's a totally different movie. And it looks different. This looks the same.
I'm just saying Josh Trank, 20th Century Fox, and Fantastic Four would argue that late cuts are definitely a thing that can happen when a studio is scared of critical
Reshoots
reactions.
always happen, though.
I'm not
with
saying they
every
don't.
major
I'm not
film.
even saying reshoots. I'm saying late cuts. I'm saying maybe they had some stuff in the can. And they're like, hey, let's bump up more of this Will Smith footage. And I'm
Maybe.
not trying to bag on Will Smith. I'm just saying maybe we need to beef up more
This is all
of this
speculation again.
corny. Well, of course it's speculation. This whole video is speculation. We
I
can
know,
say
but
it
you're
about
like
anything.
specifically crapping on speculation, on like what you think it's going to be.
No, I'm just saying that for what we know so far with our evidence.
With the trailers, that's the evidence. That's the proof. Everything you hear from trades is hearsay. Like, remember all the crap that came before
But here are
BVS
things-
of
here
how
are
it was
things
the
that are
best
true.
DC movie ever made from the trades, and then it got crapped on by critics. Fair
Here are
enough.
things that are truth. Is it looks like a lot lighter. Everything's a lot lighter than what we've seen from BVS. And I'm not saying I didn't like
The
the
Suicide
Darker Tones.
Squad trailers have been that, though. Like, where are these reshoots? Like, where is this
I'm not saying it
recut?
has anything to do
It's
with
been
reshoots.
fun the entire time.
I'm saying maybe cuts. Maybe they decided to play up the lighter angle, and I don't know that for sure. And
They've
I'm not
all
saying
been
that.
fun, though, like, to a T. Like, the entirety of every trailer. Even the first one was fun. It's just fun.
And while Terrio has said that that the Justice League
will be
film
lighter.
is going to be lighter, this is a 180 difference than things I think we've seen before.
And it's also because Zack Snyder changes cinematographers every movie that he does.
I'm not even saying in just cinematography and lenses and what kind of filters he's using. I'm not even saying like it looks lighter. I'm saying the tone and everything.
It feels like
a lot
Watchmen.
jokier.
It feels closer to Watchmen than anything he's
Kind
ever
of, but
done.
there's more jokes in that one trailer than Watchmen in its entirety.
I don't think so at all. I think that you need to watch Watchmen again.
They're playing up the humor and they're playing up the light side and they're basically going on record with a bunch of these film critics and saying, "Hey,
We're arguing Zack
we
Snyder.
kinda
Why are we
screwed
doing
up."
this? Why are we arguing Zack Snyder? Zack Snyder is not David Ayer. And also, as a filmmaker-driven studio, David Ayer has full reign.
I'm not saying Zack Snyder.
And
I'm
Zack
saying
Snyder's
an
not
entire
involved.
studio.
An entire studio that is devoted to its individual filmmakers. What does that have to do with David Ayer, who looks like he has free creative control over this movie? And there have been reports, which once again, these are reports, these are trade, but there have been reports that there were two versions of this film. One Warner Brothers version and one Ayer version. And Ayer's version won. They had screenings for people, and Ayer's version won out, and they kept that version.
I'm saying we're not getting the same Justice League film we would have gotten otherwise.
Maybe. That's
And it's impossible to say.
Yeah.
It is 100% impossible to say, but from everything that Warner Brothers is telling me, just by their changing of the guard, means that they're taking what they're hearing, for better or for worse, and they're kind of stepping down from their podium and saying, we know what's right, and kind of saying, maybe you guys know too.
They're making changes for the fans, just like Marvel has been doing for years when people had problems with MCU films and they retrofitted them. And they, themselves, Kevin Feige, retrofitted the movies. Not the brothers, not Anthony and Joe Russo, Kevin Feige. And I don't think that DC has that guy. It might be Jeff Johns now, and it looks like he's taken a lot of control over Justice League, but he's not even on Suicide Squad. He's nowhere to be seen.
No, I know.
He's going to be in Wonder Woman, and he's going to be in Justice League. Suicide Squad was in the can. I don't think that any of this stuff is going to affect Suicide Squad because the studio realizes that they have a different director on their hands. It's a different thing in general.
Movies don't necessarily get their final cut, their final edition, even within the same month that their movie comes out. Star Wars Episode 7, it was still into December before they actually finally had everything the final way that it was going to appear in the film. They could have made cuts 2 weeks ago if they wanted to and change scenes around or reorganize things or cut things or re-implement scenes back into a film without having to say anything. Are we going to get the exact version that David Ayer had envisioned for us in the beginning? Maybe, perhaps. I hope so. I definitely hope so.
I think so.
But maybe there's some decisions that were influenced by this movie that came out in March.
Maybe.
Was very poorly received right away in March.
A Snyder
and
film,
here we
which
are.
are always poorly received. Ayer's films are not poorly received.
He's divisive.
I don't think so. Fury
No.
was not divisive.
Zack Snyder is divisive.
Yeah,
This
he
was
is.
poorly received. A lot of people are very split on Zack Snyder films. MCU doesn't have one film on their resume that was as poorly received as BVS, and the vast majority of their films were received better than Man of Steel.
And you want to know why that is? Tone.
No, yes,
The
they
DCU
make
listen to that, and they're making Justice League lighter. Because all the Marvel films, even though there are some butthole Marvel films, are received better because at least there's some jokies. BVS didn't have jokes. BVS was dour. And if you didn't like the story, and if you didn't like the characters, and if you didn't like how it was going, then you wouldn't have liked the movie. Because there's nothing, outwardly fun. There's no, quips. There's no anything like that. And I understand that. But Suicide Squad is a completely different beast. Like, I could understand this argument being applied to a Doctor Strange, like, man, Marvel just boned themselves. Like, this is another Marvel movie. This isn't a DC movie first. This is a David Ayer movie. And it looks like that, and it feels like that, and everything that's surrounding it feels like that. And I think that that's the overall evidence. And from what I'm seeing from people who are involved in trades, is that buzz around this movie's good. Even people like Drew McWeeny, who said BVS is fucked. Like, BVS is doomed. They're going to replace Zack Snyder. They're going to scrap the slate. He said, and I can pull up the tweet, don't worry. Like, stop worrying. Like, everything I've heard is good. So I think that this movie is going to be received better for sure.
I think both of these films are going to be received well.
I don't think I've seen enough evidence from Doctor Strange to believe that.
I think we've seen enough evidence from MCU to say that it's going to be received well.
Yeah, but you don't like a lot of MCU movies. You don't like the majority of MCU movies.
That's neither here nor there. I'd say I'd like about half of them.
We're arguing what's going to be a better film.
Yes.
Right, and me and you tend to agree on films.
Okay, but what's going to be a better film and what I prefer in terms of tone are two different things. And we've had that discussion. And that's semantics. But what's a better film and what I prefer are two different things. I prefer BVS, even the theatrical version, to a majority of Marvel films. But I can concede that there are Marvel films that are better than that. And there are films this year that I'd say that I enjoyed watching BVS, even the theatrical version, more than other films. But I wouldn't go as far to say that they're better made films because there are definitely problems with it.
I just think that once again, we're comparing a studio that makes stuff by filmmaker and a studio that makes everything by committee. And I think that it's kind of a loose argument to be saying that because of this stuff, everything's going to be affected when that's not DC's way. Or it hasn't been. Like, it hasn't been. Like, Man of Steel wasn't received that great. Like, it was received okay. It was split. It was divisive. It was like a 50-50. And did they change? Did they lighten everything up? Did Superman smile? No. They let Zack Snyder do whatever the hell he wanted to do for Batman v Superman.
I'm saying an entire studio has changed. Film division has been split now. Producers are now in charge of things.
Suicide Squad. It looks the exact same. There's no evidence against it. There's all the evidence for it. That that the newest trailer feels like the first trailer. It all feels the same.
Yeah, but now there's 4 trailers. It feels like they're very much saying, "Hey, this is that ham that you guys wanted, and we're going to give you 4 trailers just to prove it and shove it down your throat."
And that's a whole different argument now. And also, we don't know that there's not going to be 50 more Doctor Strange trailers. And also, I can kind of say what's going to happen in Doctor Strange from my point of view.
And I agree with that.
Trailers.
I guess my whole point with the studio here is that while DC and Warner Brothers kind of feel like their backs are up against the wall a little bit, and I think that David Ayer will prove that his film is a good film and will prove that he knows what he's doing and he's a very capable filmmaker. We didn't really believe it at the time, but we were hearing back, early this year that people were nervous about BVS.
And I haven't heard that about. I've actually seen the opposite for Suicide Squad. I've seen don't be nervous. Like, we saw the shit that was BVS coming. Like, we saw that shitstorm. We've been hearing nothing but good buzz about Suicide Squad.
All right. Well,
and I know that we kind of bring our dads in all the time, and I know that
everybody's dad is the average movie goer.
Yeah, exactly. And that and he hasn't seen a Doctor Strange. My dad hasn't seen one Marvel movie. He hasn't. Like, he just doesn't give a crap about superhero movies. I showed him one of the BVS trailers, and he's like, "Man, Batman looks cool. Like, can I just see Batman?" I was like, "Sure, you just watch 20 minutes of Batman." But we went into a theater, and he saw Suicide Squad, and he was like, "Holy shit, what is that?" And I was like, "That's Suicide Squad." And he's like, "That looks like nothing I've seen before." And I was just like, "Shit, that's it. That's that gold that they're hitting with this movie that I don't think Doctor Strange is." And you could argue the hype goes against a movie or whatever, and sure, I can agree with that too.
It depends how good it is. I will give you that.
And I think that has to do with critical reception and numbers and stuff, but I don't know if that has to do with overall how good a film truly is. And we've been movie lovers for a long time, and I like to think that we have generally decent taste in movies, and that I think that we can see a movie that is crap from a mile away, and a movie that is truly something special. And this movie feels like that more than the feeling I'm getting from Doctor Strange. And I know it's speculation, but that's kind of this whole thing. And I think that feeling is something huge.
Speculation is the name of the game here, and that's what this episode's kind of about. And we can argue it till the cows come home, but I think that we've both said our pieces.
Where have the cows been?
But I think we've both said our pieces, yes?
Yes. So. And to be honest, you got me more excited for Doctor Strange.
Really?
Than I was, yeah.
Okay.
I think that you gave some solid arguments, and I respect you for it.
Might cry a little bit. All right.
I mean, you didn't have to do a lot of work because it looks like crap.
Well, we've decided. We've decided on our takes, so now it's time for you guys to decide on yours.
Yes, what will be better?
So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have Ryno and his pitch down below in the comment section, and we're going to have me, Bobby, the right guy, in the comments section below.
There it is.
And you guys give your thumbs up for...
This feels like it's going to start a Marvel DC fan war.
Yeah, and next week, spoilers, I think we're going to be taking similar sides.
Yeah. And now that this argument is over, this is kind of funny because we both just like good films and we don't really care about the studios.
I don't think that either one of these movies are going to be bad. And
Yeah,
I said
I don't
that
think
before.
so either.
I really hope I really enjoy both of
Yeah.
these films.
The only thing Doctor Strange really has going against it for me is that when I heard the cast, I was just like, holy shit. Like, that got me more hyped than anything probably could.
And I agree. I want to see more from the trailers. I want them to explore more of the weirdness that we have yet to see.
Yeah. And also, it's hard to, like, argue the fact that, like, Suicide Squad has a lot going against it. And I don't know if that's going to affect how I view it or the film's quality in general, but that's something I guess we'll see in the next couple days.
Part of these arguments were contrived, but I think generally, like, I really do believe in Doctor Strange more than you do.
Yeah, I think so, too.
So...
And I think I believe in Suicide Squad more than you do.
Yeah, I actually think I'm very excited for both of these films, but I think that I do have
Somebody lost a coin toss.
I do have a few nervous precursors, I guess, to the Suicide Squad film that won't be quelled until I actually see the film for myself.
And my nervousness for Doctor Strange is my nervousness in going to any MCU film that I think it's just kind of be more of the same.
Okay.
That's kind of everything I've always been nervous about.
All right. So, MCU, DCEU, Doctor Strange, Suicide Squad, which one's going to be better? It's up to you guys to decide. Have a good week, you crazies.